Hey there, welcome to Live Happily Ever Now. I am your host, Carrie Briggs. If you found this podcast, that is no accident. It means that you're ready to feel good, heal your life, and manifest the life of your dreams. I can't wait. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Live Happily Ever Now. I am your host, Carrie Briggs. So I'm super excited for today's guest. I was actually on her podcast, and if you have not listened to the podcast episode with us before, you need to go check it out because this is going to be a continuation on our conversation, and we're just going to really see where it goes. So I'm actually going to hand it over to the beautiful Brittany, and so she can introduce herself, and we can just start this beautiful conversation.
Oh, I love you so much. I'm so excited about this. Spirit has made this the most divine timing for us to make this happen. And so I know it's going to be potent. Hello, everybody who does not know me. I am Brittany Renee. I am a psychic intuitive. I am a channel. I work with embodiment. I work deeply with divine feminine and divine masculine codes, spirit-driven business, kind of all the hats, all the things, right? So I'm super excited to be here and to see where we're going today.
I know. And actually, before we hit record, we were talking because we're both going through a lot of there's a very big divine, dark masculine energy, dark codes coming through right now. And we were actually talking about the divine masculine before we kick in. So I kind of feel like we need to talk about that. I feel like we need to bring that up and just talk about this. We must heal our divine masculine in order to heal our divine feminine. It is all one. We all have masculine and feminine within us, but so many of us are so scared of our masculine side because we've never felt safe in it. We've never felt safe with the divine masculine. So to heal the divine masculine within ourselves is this whole other level. So I'd love to hear your take on all of those things. And yeah, I'm excited.
So, oh man, this is actually super tender with me right now. I actually just came out of medicine ceremony from this past weekend. And for me, my intention in the ceremony was a deeper coming home. And I was like, whatever that means, I'm just going to trust spirit and the medicine to bring me to that. And for me, I very much recognize and know my own feminine and masculine within me. And it's funny when we talk about, I want to go into this first. We talk about that fear of the masculine, but at the same time, most women are operating in their masculine and don't even realize it. When I work with clients and we're like, let's talk about feminine and masculine, they're like, oh, I'm actually not in my feminine at all. I'm like, so it's so interesting. And I think that's almost the first click for people sometimes is oh, I'm actually really in my masculine. And it's hard to feel safe and even receive masculine energy if you are housing that component, the yin and yang. You can't have the yin and the yin can't fit together. That's not how it works. And the yang and the yang doesn't work. So I think the first thing is understanding that most of us, unless we are conscious in doing this work, are operating in our masculine. And half of the time, not our divine masculine, we're operating in wounded masculine, which is, that's its own conversation. But I think that right now, what I've been noticing personally within clients, collectively in the fields, is that the divine masculine template is really starting to come online. And this past weekend, I was in a medicine ceremony with a client of mine. I actually came to be a participant and to help for his relaunch of his brand that we just did. And his name's Chris King. He's incredible. The medicines that we did were Blue Lotus, Lemon Sky, and Wachuma. I've never done medicine. This was my first experience. I was a little nervous. Then I also was in this I've done this in other lifetimes, so I don't know why I'm really nervous. But the overarching thing for me was receiving the divine masculine, because being a single mama, I run things. I'm a boss. I run the business, I run the house. You even get it, not even being a single mom. We just know how to run things. And so the whole weekend, there were two men that were there. One of them was Chris, and I'm so used to his energy that I'm very safe with him. But the other male I've never talked to, and he is he's one of the guys that you'd look at and you would not think was going to be at a medicine ceremony, big, manly man, beard, just runs businesses. You're okay. But he was instrumental this past weekend because there were moments I was being shown this partner that's orbiting in, which I had so much resistance to. So that was the first piece the medicine had to like break me open into.
Mhm.
But then I was allowing that energy to kind of come into my field a little bit more. And there were points where the guy that was there came up and he would like put his hands just softly on my face and he would hold me if I was crying or if I was processing, and didn't even have to speak because his energy was just so grounded and so safe. And I didn't realize how much I needed that. And like, we talk about this, right? Like you and I are
Mhm.
in this realm, we're in this field, and
Mhm.
I know this, but I had to really experience it. And just the amount of reciprocity from all of the feminine energies to this masculine energy, I think was so healing for him in so many ways too. So yes, like the masculine is coming online. And many of them don't even realize they're coming online, which I think is really cute because like even this guy, he's like, I don't really have gifts. And I looked at him, I was like, you do. I was like, your timing, like your soul knows when to go to certain people. And so it's interesting because I think the layer that I think is, like I said, it's cute, is like a lot of masculines are starting to step into this divinity without even realizing it.
That is definitely something that's really coming up in the collective. And I'm like, it's funny when people talk and you're like, oh my God, all these like light bulbs are going off. I'm like, I have a friend in my life and it's the same thing. Like his divine masculine is awoke and like it's waking up and I'm the one that activated him. And now we're activating each other on a very intense level.
I
And
love that.
it's like being safe with another male that is, anyway, it's a whole other conversation.
Yes.
But totally feeling that with like, and no, I'm not a single mom, but I am the breadwinner of the household. I am the caretaker of all my children. I am the one who runs my business. Like I am the one that does it all the time. I don't, that's a whole other conversation. But so I feel that very deeply. And I do, like we get stuck in our masculine, not in like, I mean, I have an awareness around it now, yes, but before I would get stuck in my masculine and it was so toxic. Like it was a straight up toxic energy, this like martyr energy of like we have to do all the things all the time, and we do it because we have to. So learning to step out of that and fall into this divine masculine has been really, really powerful. And then again, finding these other like these kings, so to speak, waking up and being in these energies to hold all of our divine feminine. And it has been so beautiful and so powerful. And I'm just in the beginning of this like really deep awakening for this part. And it's like I'm like watching it unfold. I'm like, this is so freaking cool. So I
Oh,
love
I
that you
have
had that medicine
chills.
ceremony. I know.
I love it so much. And it's, there was a moment that one of the pieces I think that's running parallel, and I'm interested to know if this is coming up for you because we didn't talk about this. So the first night, the medicine that we were on was very etheric. It was very like, we weren't necessarily in a journey where things were like
Mhm.
moving or anything like that. It was much more vision, which for those of us who are already in our sight, right? It was like so amplified. And we were at the Cobra Kai Mansion in Atlanta, which is from like the movie, which I've never seen, but there was this arboretum like in the middle where there were trees, a waterfall. It was like the most magical little place. And it had these huge windows, like dome windows up top. And I had gone in there and all of a sudden I heard, "Don't you remember your castle?" And I know that I've been royalty in prior lifetimes,
Mhm.
but I looked up and it was like everything just, I'm sure you've had these moments, like shifted into that reality in that time. And I got so emotional and it was like everything was candlelit already for the ceremony. So everything just looked like it was an evening in the castle. And then I heard Chris, who is my client slash very good friend who was running this, the shaman, and I heard him behind me say, "Gwendolyn, don't you remember?" And not even a minute later, I'm just sitting there like letting all of this drop in and I see these like codes starting to like move through. And he's standing behind me in the archway and he starts singing from The Bodyguard, "I Will Always Love You." And I'm just like, I cannot with what's happening right now. So then we started integrating and talking about this. And I'm like, these royal ancient codes of union are coming online. And I'm going to get emotional talking about
I
this. It's probably about 2.5 months ago, I was working with a friend, just doing clearing in the fields. We like like we do, right? Clearing each other's space. And all of a sudden this drop-in came in and it was like the ancient codes of union are coming online in the next 90 days. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, I have no idea what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wrote it down and I started writing all of these codes and I have it in this notebook. And ironically, this notebook has been calling to me. So I opened it last week before everything and I was just kind of looking at it and I was like, okay, don't really still know what this means. Yesterday, and I have to show you this, there is a notebook that's been sitting just outside of my garage door for I don't know how long, since we moved in like 2 years ago. And today they were like, you have to go grab that notebook. You have to get into that notebook. And I'm like, what is it about this notebook? And before we hopped on, I was like, oh, it's the sun and the moon. And I'm like, I don't know what's in here yet. So to be determined what is calling in this notebook. But the royalty code, the royal bloodline is like coming back in. And it's like the anointing, the adoring, the I bow to you energy is coming back. And I'm like, ooh, my feminine is so here for this.
I almost started crying when you were talking because last week I did an Akashic journey with somebody did an Akashic journey with me. And, I've done Akashic journeys like many times before, and I've always seen the royal codes. I've always seen like the royalty. I broke down and she broke down too during this journey with me because they showed me my kingdom. They showed me my castle and they're like, and it wasn't just the castle. It was like this deep mourning around the grief of the union of sisterhoods coming to support you. And it was just this 2-hour journey of reclaiming the queendom, the goddess codes, we're cleaning the light codes, we're cleaning, like reclaiming the union codes. So the fact that you're bringing this up, I'm like,
oh my God.
Like, when things like this is why it was postponed so many times.
This was why it was, y'all. We have tried to do this podcast
so many times.
Like over a month. Like
easily. Maybe and something is like coming up constantly.
This is why. This is spirit timing. So the sister code, the day that I did Wachuma, which was the next day, I had felt this like ping. I was outside, I was in the sun, because in Wachuma, you're supposed to like be in the sun and be in play. But I felt this ping that was like, go inside into the ceremony space. And I went in there and Chris was working on one of the participants and didn't even look back. He like felt me and he just put his hand back to grab me because he felt me come in. And we started working and I started doing light language on her. And I started to, I posted about this because I'm like, this is so wild. This has been happening.
Your video when you were doing
getting into the field and actually moving the light body, moving the codes. So I started doing this and her body was like all over the place. But what they were doing was they were turning on those helixes of that royal code. They were turning on the remembrance. And I kept hearing, you have to tell her to remember. So at one point I go up and I'm like right next to her ear and I'm like just speaking this light language that's channeling. And I'm like, it's time to remember. It's time to remember. It's time to remember. And there comes this moment that she's just sobbing and she looks at me and then I start getting emotional because I'm like, what's happening? And she's like, I remember. And I was like, you do? And she's like, we were sisters. And last night, the energy that we felt, because she was feeling the castle energy too. She's like, the energy we felt last night is because that was like us going back to our inner child in that lifetime where we were like running into our bedroom during like the royal dinners and we're like just being silly and playful. And she had the whole remembrance and she goes, you remembered the language from that time. And she's like, I helped people kind of like, she was very protective of me in the lifetime. She was like, we ended up like losing each other when we were like teenagers because of something. And she's like, and I never found my way back to you. And she's like, but as you were sitting here singing to me, it was like that distant call that I found my way back. And she's like, but we're here. And I was just like, at this point, sobbing and like, we're having all of this remembrance. So again, I'm like sitting here listening to you and you're like the sisters and all of the queendoms. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't make it up. You cannot make up what's happening right now.
You cannot. And I'm so grateful for this conversation because, it really is hard when we're in these spiritual worlds and we have these experiences, because if you try to talk to like some random person on the street, they have no idea what you're talking about. But when you talk to somebody and you're like, oh my God, you had the same, like a very similar experience. And these, like, I have chills from what you were talking
I
about.
am too.
It's like blowing, it blows my mind, but it also doesn't. Like, I'm like, oh, of course, this all makes sense. But to have somebody to have a conversation like this and be like, no, I see you, I feel you. Like, this is, we're not making this stuff up. We cannot make this stuff up. And I guarantee you, there are hundreds of thousands of other people going through this who had a very similar experience, probably very recently, because
Mhm.
we all are collected, like, we're all collectively connected to these incredible codes. But holy moly, I mean, these goddess, these queen codes, and like
Ugh.
that, it's very empowering because it's like, this is my time. We're not playing small anymore. Like, we played small for so fucking long. There is like, what are we getting by playing small? Absolutely nothing. We are hurting others, we're hurting ourselves, we're not allowing ourselves to be our fullest expression. So it's time to really embody the all of us. The all of us. And if you can't, like, I know it's I can't, it's Marilyn Monroe. Like, if you can't handle me worse, then you don't deserve me at my best.
Yes.
And
Oh,
that's just like, that's where we are. Like, bitch, this is my world. I'm claiming it. You can come along with me. I will hold you. I will love you. But we are no longer tolerating bullshit in the most like respectful way.
pretty much. We went into the Chris does a beautiful job of he literally creates soundtracks for the journeys every time. And it's just whatever's getting called in. And so with Blue Lotus, he took us like underwater into this temple, and like Auntie Lotus was there. And we went into like looking at the emerald tablets, and she, like, her energy came right up next to me, and she took my hand, like my finger, and she was tracing. And she said, bitch, I said what I said, which is what I say all the time about things. But I was like, I love
Yeah.
that the medicine is reflecting this. But it was about like, we're not playing anything but priestess at this point. Like, there is
Exactly.
nothing, peasantry is done. We are gone.
hmm
We are no longer there. And I was like, heard. Okay.
Like, it's, what do you say? You said you bow to me. Like, that's pretty much where we're at. Like, you bow
Yeah.
to me, not in a disrespectful way. Like, I don't
No.
disrespect you in any way. It's like, I respect myself so much that you get to respect yourself so much. And it's just, it's this very powerful, uplifting energy that, like, you know, we walk through the medicine that we teach, we walk through the medicine that we're channeling, and just like walking through this myself and walking my clients through this, I'm like, this is a whole other level. This is, I mean, coming from somebody who had no self-worth, who had like nothing, to this very empowered body that I'm in now. It's just, it's crazy. And I'm like, I'm so excited to see what else comes in, because
I
if
know we're
this,
like just scratching the
I
surface of
know,
this one.
I know. Every time I'm like, it's gonna get better than this. What?
I feel like I want us to speak to that, because I feel like
Mhm.
there are definitely going to be people listening to this that are going to be like, I want that. Like, I'm
Mhm.
ready, but I'm not in the activation yet.
Exactly.
It is so worth it for you to let yourself be messy,
Mhm.
fall down,
Mhm.
try and fail, and get up and try again, and keep working towards that favorite version of yourself, because it is exactly that. It's like, we're now in the space, and I say this because I'm seeing you so
Mhm.
deeply at soul level. We are in this space that, like, we've picked ourselves and scraped ourselves off the floor.
Exactly.
Many.
Thousands of times. Yeah.
We've served when we didn't know if we could serve. We've like
Exactly.
committed, and now we're in the space where, like, the words I kept hearing was, we're back.
Right.
Like, it's just,
That's exactly that energy. It's like, you know, I say this all the time. I've been through hell. Like, I've been through hell. And as shitty as it was, I would go through hell again to get where I am now.
yes.
Because, and actually I heard something before this, and they described it like a bow, like a bow and an arrow. The arrow cannot go forward until you pull the bow back. You have to be willing to get messy. You have to be willing to fall down. You have to be willing to go to your depths of your hell, so that you can heal that part of yourself, so you can propel yourself forward into the future to your highest timeline. But so many people are afraid of that because they're like, oh, I don't want it to be hard. It's not. And there's the other analogy too. It's, you know, fear is a mile wide,
Yes.
but we don't realize that it's only an inch deep. So we see this and we're so scared to do the things that are unknown, because we're scared of the unknown. But once you start walking through it, you realize it's not that scary, and you are strong enough to do it. you would not be put on this path if you were not strong enough to hold yourself and do it. And the reason you have those desires, the reason you have those big dreams and those goals that you're calling in is because you are strong enough to get there and to do the healing. So like I've fallen down, Brittany has fallen down, and we've fallen down more times and been on the floor in tears, feeling completely broken, but getting back up and doing it anyway, that's where that healing comes from. And it's messy. Like, I'm not going to say it's not messy, but it's worth it every single time.
And it's, then you get to these spaces where you're like, oh, it gets to be even better, like even better than it already is, because you lock into the embodiment of the remembrance so deeply of who you are. Now it's like the phase of like the gifts really start to get juicy, because we're like, oh, I can slay anything that comes in front of me. I've got my dragons. I am the dragon. I am the queen. Come at me. Like,
exactly.
Very like we were talking about Kali, right? Very just like, Kali is fully locked into my coding system. So cheers, bring me what you need.
And that's exactly it. Yes, I'm doing a Kali activation on 4/4. And
Ooh.
I know, I'm so excited. But like, even this morning I went through a very deep, intense death portal around like being a mother. And as I was in there of that energy, I'm like, okay, so that means a beautiful gift is coming out of this. I am in this depth of hell. I am in these emotions. I'm in this pain because there is a gift here, and I'm healing a part of myself. I'm healing my inner child. I'm healing my mother wound, all of these different parts of myself. And I know it's going to get better. So like, having, for anybody who's going through anything, just having that awareness that you are healing a part of yourself when you witness your emotions, when you sit in that pain, when you sit in those things, and call on your guides. Like, call it. My card is still sitting right here. I have my Kali Ma card. I've talked about this over and over again. She is my divine mother. She is the one that has held me. And so many people are scared of her because people are scared of the dark. Kali Ma literally means bringing in darkness. But what they don't realize is that you have to be willing to go to the dark to get to the light. You have to, because if you are not like the yin and the yang, you cannot just have yin and yang. You're not gonna have yang and yang. You have to have both. And that's what, for me, at least Kali does, is she brings them together, because she is death and destruction, but she is also love and compassion and so much power. So it's like, I mean, all goddesses are like that. Even the ones that are presented as beautiful love goddesses, they have a darkness within them, but people only see what they want to see.
Exactly. And, you know, I am like the first to admit that when I first started getting into the journey of awakening and spirituality, I was very much like, you know, I think the most, quote, dense goddess, if I wanted to put it like that I would touch was Freya. Because I could feel the depth, but I also was like, but she's that warrior mom, right? But for me, I was like, I'm going to stay with like Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and Aphrodite, and I'm going to be in this very like etheric, you know, goddess.
Do that. Yeah.
And then it was like everything around me. Oh my goodness, there is a little fox walking back here in my backyard.
Little fox medicine.
So everything around me then started to be like the shadow, started to be deeper. And Kali was the first one that came to me. And these goddesses know what they're doing, y'all. So if they're peeping in their energy, there is a reason.
Yes.
Kali came at the exact moment that like I was actually able to accept her, because I was in a huge legal custody thing with the dads and my kids. Like, it was just a lot. So I started to look into her. I'm like, who is this? What does Kali do? And at first I actually felt safe attaching to the rage that she allows you to have.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh,
that
like,
sacred rage.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. I'm like, this woman's got like skeleton heads on a necklace. Like, she's got spears with heads on them. And I was like, I get this energy right now. I need that portal. And so I felt really safe with her. I was like, okay, I can let this in. But I also saw, even after the destruction, she was actually balancing the scales. It wasn't just to wreak havoc. It's like, there is injustice, and I'm going to assist bringing justice, what needs to be brought. And a lot of times, as we know through all of this, there's destruction to get to that.
Exactly.
So I'm like, Kali is great. But then it's like, once you let, I think,
you open the floodgates,
say dark goddess in, then it's everything. It's like, here comes Lilith, here comes Hecate. It's like all of these, even Eris has been really big. And there is fear, I think, around them because we've been programmed and taught that dark is bad. And I'm
Exactly.
like, I only know the level of light that I know because
Mm-hmm.
I've allowed myself to know the dark. And I'm
Exactly.
not scared to go to the depths, and I'm not scared to be thrown down to the pit of my field because I know I've been there and I know how to get back up. So it's like,
And that's exactly it. It's, that was shown to me too in my coaching. They're like, that's why I can hold people in their hell, because
yes,
I've been there so many times that I'm protected enough to go down with you, to hold myself down there so I can bring you back up. And I think that's what these dark goddesses, like, we are so scared of the dark. We are scared of the dark is the feminine. It truly is.
yes,
So, I mean, it isn't everything. So to be scared of the dark is being scared of your true femininity, to be scared of your true power. And that was shown me is like, that's why we are not where we meant to be, because we're so scared of our power. So you
yes,
have to be willing to let these beautiful dark goddesses, because they embody their true power. They embody all parts of themselves. They have no fear. They don't question who they are. They're like, bitch, bow to me. Like, I am so powerful. I know how powerful I am. Kali Ma destroyed and murdered rapists. That's why she got named, because she killed men. Of course, she's going to be demonized because she killed men.
right.
So it's like, but she did it to, again, balance the scales, to bring in force, because she had so much compassion. Nobody else was doing shit. She's like, fine, I'll do it. I'll be the person. And that's where it's like, we get to be that person in our own life. And that is what, like, embodying that darkness within ourselves is. It's like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it amazingly. And I'm going to do it in the most powerful, loving way without harming anybody. But if you, and like, there's toxic parts of the dark feminine, just like there's toxic parts of everything. But when you have this awareness, it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
like, you get to love, like, I can't explain it other than like loving all of yourself and being able to be in the light and the dark at the same time is unlike, again, I've been through hell and I'd do it again just to get where I am, because this embodiment, and again, barely scratching the surface. We're just getting started on this, but it's crazy.
Oh, and I love that you're bringing up like all the parts of yourself because, I think that one of the things about committing to your spirituality or your growth, your embodiment, whatever it's going to be, maybe it's even just spirit-driven business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to go into spirit-driven work. It is the ultimate coming home. Like,
1000%. Mm-hmm.
and it's not just coming home to your gifts and the like things that we like to say are the only part of this, right? It's you're coming home to all the parts of yourself, all the inner
Mm-hmm.
child wounds, all of the ancestral wounds, all of the memories, good, bad, and different.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order for you to have, really, it's like no fear,
That's exactly
And
what it is. Yeah.
for me, I was speaking about dark goddesses with my Haven group, and they were like, I don't know, I don't really know if that's for me. And I'm like, you can stop yourself at any point in this journey. You can
Mm-hmm.
say, this is all I want to do. This is all I want to go. However, your soul may have signed up for something your human and your ego are unwilling to see yet. And
Uh-huh.
if you are in my orbit, just like anyone in your orbit,
Exactly.
y'all came here for the full experience. You did not come here to just bypass the dark and be like, I'm only over here. Because your power is not only in the light.
It's not.
And I've said, I'm like, I literally am pretty much fearless at this point. Like, yes, I
Mm-hmm.
still get nervous or scared for moments, but that is deeply where I do call in those dark goddesses. And I
Mm-hmm.
literally feel them step around me and in front of me. And they're like, we've got it. We can do this. There's nothing to be scared of. And that is a power that the patriarchy does not want us to remember.
So much on that. And that's why women were demonized. That's why we were burned at the stake, because we held our power and we were fearless. And it just like I go on and on and on. I've been feeling all the feels about this whole patriarchy thing. We were talking about it yesterday too. You know, this, I don't know why this is going this way, but it's like the divine masculine is coming up to be healed because they are so fucking scared,
Yes.
have no idea what is happening. And we can go at it with fire, and we can go at it with like all of these dark energies, or we can go at it with love. Like, just as they have held us, it's time for us to hold them so that they can rise in a powerful way. I don't know why that came through, but
Yes. Yes. It's true though, because the reason that I believe the masculine is coming online in that more divine way is because we have so many feminines that are housing and actually fully embodying the whole code. It's
Mhm.
not just the light of the feminine. It's
Exactly.
like we are housing our light, we are housing our dark, and we are able to fluidly move. So there's enough of us holding that embodiment that now the template of divine masculine is getting pulled back up because it
Exactly.
has to.
Because exactly, when we rise together, and you're either gonna rise with us or you're not, and that's okay. Like that's your divine path, and that's fine. And I lost my train of thought.
It is, it's the divine path.
It's
But
just like,
there's also, I want to speak to that little piece is like, there is no better than or above or below,
exactly.
really,
Mhm.
right? It's like all of us are on our path exactly where we're supposed to be. And if you're sitting and listening to this and you're like, I don't feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be,
You
good.
are.
You're
Mhm.
where you're supposed to be, but like good that you're actually ready for a change.
Mhm.
You're ready for more because that alone, knowing that you want more, is going to allow that portal to open for you.
Like we just need to celebrate that for a second. And I say this all the time. I'm like, the awareness, that is the key. That is the unlocking. That moment you're aware, you're like, oh, I want more. That is when things start to shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like you do things after that, but that right there, like, when everybody's like, when did you wake up? When did you wake up? I'm like, because I was on my knees saying, there has to be more than this. There has to be more than this. And that's the moment everything started shifting. So like, if you're listening to this and you're like what she said, like, if you're like, I don't know how to get there, like, that's so far away. I would love to be, you have that awareness. By being here, listening to this, you are waking up. You are elevating in the most beautiful way. Even if like nothing happens in that moment, you were exactly where you're supposed to be in this moment.
Mm. We're delivering all the codes.
All the codes today. This is delicious.
And I saw a quote, I think it was last week, and it was simple, but it was one of those that I'm like, oh, like I needed that perspective and that view to really drop in. And it said, why are we so scared of heartbreak when every time we navigate that, we're closer to ourselves?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I was like, we are in a chaos portal right now. We're
Oh
in
my
such
God,
a
yes.
destruction portal. And I feel like before I even say this, I feel like the collective listeners being like, oh, we are in a chaos portal, but y'all, it's not ending anytime soon. Like
Oh
it's
no,
going
it's
to
gonna
be
get worse.
way worse, way more amped up, way messier.
We're just speeding
And
it up.
I'm interested to know how you're feeling in this because I feel like because I have allowed those dark goddesses, the dark within me to really integrate, I feel like a tree right now in the middle of a storm.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And I was talking to my mentor a couple weeks ago. It's like we are in a creating with chaos energy. This chaos is never going to slow down. This energy is never going to slow down. It is going to only consistently get faster and faster and faster and faster and make it more chaotic. It's learning to be grounded in that. And that's exactly, I said yesterday, I said, my entire world is spinning right now. I'm just like chilling here, meditating under a Bodhi tree.
Yes.
And that's all I can do. I'm like, what is me feeding into that chaos going to do? Absolutely nothing. I can sit here, I can witness it, I can step in when I need to step in. But me obsessing, because the old me would, like that's just our fight or flight.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have to fix all the things. But it's that no, pause, stillness, slow down, getting deeply grounded, and then you can attack the chaos, but in a much more stable way. So I totally feel that. Like,
Mm. Well, and I think partnering with that is like the chaos. A lot of people are leaving the planet. A lot of people are
yes.
dropping their bodies. A lot of
Mhm.
people did not choose to come into this next space. A lot of relationships are getting torn apart. A lot, and it is heartbreaking to our human and I think to our
Yeah.
soul,
Yeah.
when we go through deep grief and loss. And I let these final pieces go over this past weekend from my prior union that were so almost like just stickers, almost that it felt like it was just a sticker that we were just kind of pulling off. It was like that
Yeah.
last little piece.
Yeah.
But the sight that I kept seeing was like where I am right now today. Number one, I could not have been in that prior space, period. Because my feminine in the wholeness was already getting struggled to be held. Right now, forget it. Second is that the level of grief that I touched through that process, I've never touched in my life. It allowed me to be so broken open that my hands were just up. Like when you were like, I'm just, my hands are open, and I'm like, I didn't even know how to do anything but breathe some days. And I think the collective is moving through this. And I think that you're probably in this. A lot of us who are helping lead and activate, we're like 3, 6, 12 months ahead of the collective because we're embodying the codes to be meditating in this chaos. And we're just like, but it allows us to hold and see our clients and our tribe in a way that they can feel we see them.
Exactly. And like we use I like using the analogy, like we're all in this wave. Like some of us are up here and some of us are down here, but we're all in the same wave and we're all going to get to the same place. It just might take a minute for some people, and that's okay. But it really is that holding that space. And this is why I'm so open about being vulnerable about the things I go through. Because yes, I am spiritual, but I'm also human. And by me like this morning, I went live in my membership and I was sobbing because I was going a deep motherhood wound was coming up and needed to be processed. And, the old me would have hid that. But I'm like, no, I'm showing them this because they're probably going to go through something very, very soon. Relationships are being tested like none other right now, especially with this eclipse I'm a double Libra, so I'm just like,
oh, girl.
I'm a hot mess this week. It's fine. It's gonna be fine. So
everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Everything's literally burning around me, but it's cool. But again, that's like I can hold myself during that. So moving through those and then showing my clients how to move through that and that it's safe to move through that is so powerful. Because again, I wasn't allowed to feel emotions growing up. I was like, it wasn't acceptable. Couldn't be emotional. I couldn't cry. So for me as a mother and as a student and as a teacher and all of these things, like moving through those is so powerful. And yeah.
Girl, so much, and it's interesting because the motherhood thing, even, you mentioned that earlier, and I don't think we talked about it. One of the pieces that has been really illuminated for me lately is motherhood. And it's like wanting to be this version of the mother that I can't step in it yet. And it's like, I know I'm an incredible mom and I know I'm showing up and I know I'm doing really well. And there's this, like, it feels like it's like 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of me still is this version that I'm like, who is she? I see her. I want to step into that. And it's like having to, I think, pull the belief systems and the grief and all the things off to step into it. Last night, my littlest was like making pasta with me and he started singing, "Nothing's gonna harm you." And I still like, oh my God, I love you so much. And so we're sitting there singing and I put my camera up and I had posted it on my story because I was like, this moment, like this, it was a glimmer. It was this glimmer of like, this is what I want. And we're sitting there making pasta and we're singing together and like, just so in this like magical, like, in Pocahontas when like the leaves are flowing everywhere. I was like, that's what it felt like in my kitchen last night. And I'm like, that's what I want, is I want this soul connection to my babies where it's like, yes, we're human. Yes, I'm older. Yes, I'm mom. But like my son, and I'm sure you probably feel this with your kids, like he's a grandpa soul. Like he is an old, ancient soul. And sometimes he looks at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I know you know more than you know, right? It's like just so much. But it's like, I think for me, that's the only pinpoint that's dropped in is like, I feel like there's a layer of motherhood that I want to touch and embody so much. And it's just like at my fingertips.
It's like right
I
there.
just can't grab it.
And that's exactly where I am right now. And that was essentially my breakdown this morning because all of these things came up. And I had a very similar experience with my daughter last night in the kitchen, except we were like rave dancing, like full on rave dancing.
I
But we
love.
both needed to move energy. And she is my old soul. She comes up to me and she says these things. I'm like, you are 6 years old. How do you how do you know? Like, and she's like, I just know mommy. I mean, she's so in touch with herself. It's crazy.
Mm.
But it's like, if my children can be the fullest expression of themselves, then I know that I will get to have that connection, and I will be, it's not that I'm not a bad mother. Like, we're human. Like, we have humanness. We're gonna make mistakes. That's just part of this human experience.
Mm.
It's like, but I know that there's a version of myself as a mother out there that is so close. And I think that's what my emotion this morning was, is like, I crave it so deeply, and I know it's so close, and I can touch it and I can feel it, but it's just like right outside that barrier. So I know it's coming, but it's like I want it so bad. That's where my impatience comes in. And I'm like, but I want it now.
I know. Our
Yeah.
soul remembers that when we're not in a human body, most of the time
Mhm.
we can gravitate things faster. So then we get
Exactly.
annoyed with like, why is
Humanness.
this taking so long?
You're like, it didn't, like, this is ridiculous. I know I do that. And I'm like, it's okay. We're human timeline. Time is weird. We just gotta like process it. But yeah.
Oh, I am so grateful just for like these conversations and
Mhm.
the resonance and the
It's
witnessing that gets to happen
Mhm.
in this space because, often it's like, I think as leaders, as practitioners, as coaches, as whatever you want to call it, we're constantly at the front line.
Mhm.
Energetically, physically,
Yes.
emotionally, we're at the front line. And I get so soul fed from these moments where like two of us get to be on the podcast together and it's
Mhm.
not as much like separation, it's more that
That
sisterhood. And I just want to
union.
say, like, I just honor your magic and your work, and I
And
see where you're going and where we're all going. And I'm just so grateful for this conversation in these spaces because this is just one of those moments that I'm like, I needed.
Mhm. I mean, like we talked about this before, there's a reason that this podcast kept on getting pushed out, but to be here and to witness you and to see your magic, it is just like, it is so, it's, it's like fulfilling. It's just so fulfilling. And I'm so grateful for you. And oh, this has been beautiful. And I just want to thank you so much for being here, and thank you for floating around this crazy universal space and dealing with our humanness and schedules and all of the things to get here. But this has just been incredible. Is there anything you want to share with anybody before we pop off? And there will be more episodes, don't worry. We're
Oh
not
my
done with these
goodness. I know.
conversations.
We always we get so much in these.
Mhm.
Let me see. Yeah, I think to kind of close out just as a whole what we've been
Mhm.
talking about. If you are feeling that yearning to step in more, to lean in more, to embody more, I just want to like pass the permission slip and the invitation to find your tribe. And I know that
Mhm.
we both have communities, we both have mentorship, and it's just so important for you to trust your discernment right now because there are so many, consciousness is becoming it's like a thing,
Mhm.
it's a
It's a thing.
trending
Yeah,
thing.
the trend, yes.
And your intuition will know who's authentic. So trust
Exactly.
that. Don't trust the numbers or the snake oil sales pitches. Trust your gut and find your tribe because this is a moment where it is really our job in a sense to
Mhm.
find our groundedness and to be witnessed in that. And I'm getting ready to kick off a ton of retreats, which I know like at one point I know that we're going to be doing
I know,
something.
we'll look it out.
Spirit is going to bring that again in the divine timing. But I have a retreat in Indianapolis, April 12th to the 14th. I have the 26th to the 29th in Florida. We've got Dallas at the end of May. We may have a Vegas trip somewhere in between there.
Mhm.
So thebrittanyrenee.com is how you guys can always find me. TikTok, I'm that babe B, and the Brittany Renee on Instagram. Yeah, I think that's it.
That's
I would love to connect with anyone. If this like resonates for y'all, please follow, comment, anything. I would love to always see what activated because I know our conversations are super activating. So
yeah.
it makes my heart full to see everyone in there receiving because that
Mhm.
in itself is such a thing, which is a whole other episode.
It's a whole, we'll touch base, we promise. Yeah, so I'll make sure I drop all of her links below. I am so freaking excited. And And that's exactly it. Like, trust your intuition. You will know, like you will know exactly who you're meant to work with. You will know exactly who is going to get you to that next level. And exactly, like, I could say so many more things on that, but this is amazing. You are perfect. This has been
Oh.
absolutely incredible. And I just wanted to thank you again. Thank you for being here. Thank you to my listeners. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
If you made it to the end of this episode, that means you are truly committed to your goals and open to miracles. I am so proud of you. If you want to get more Carrie, make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. Your experience means a lot to me, so I welcome you to leave an honest review. And you can follow me on social media at Carrie Briggs Coaching. If you really want to get in on the action, sign up for my monthly membership, Unlock Yourself, or reach out for more powerful one-on-one work. I love you all so much. See you next time.